Welcome to episode 3 of the Syncretist Society. I'm Alex Corey of CultivatedChange.com, and I'm joined as always by Danielle Rodenroth of SoulMapping.life. We're in Western North Carolina, and it is a glorious week. The spring has almost sprung, but everything is going in the ground. We haven't introduced this part of the syncretism yet, but we are both avid gardeners, so as time goes on, we'll give you updates from our little urban farm garden out back and things we like cultivating, more of the sovereignty aspect. Last week we went over conditioning and pressure and the different gates and angles felt by that. This week will be a continuation of that, more so on the forward or projection side and how we affect others with ours, opposed to how best stand in our own truth when we feel pressure coming in from the external side.
Yeah, exactly. And, we chatted about it. We're like, okay, what should we talk about today? And I'm like, well, we covered, what it's like to receive conditioning and how that affects your being and, like, your decision-making and who you are and all of that. So, yeah, you can stand in your truth. But then, we didn't really cover how it also is the other way, where, like, we can condition others. It happens unconsciously. It happens with our form, our codes. A lot of times we don't even know that we're doing it, but there is a way to also empower others to be in their truth and not overly influence them and try to condition them as well. And we're going to be talking about projectors, because projectors are here to give advice, but even if you are not a projector, most people have projected channels because the majority of the channels in a chart are projected, or you probably have some gates that are part of projected channels. So we'll look into all the different types and how that operates, even manifestors, right? So when to kind of inform and how to let that go so it's not just like kind of trying to force people to do things and all of that. But yeah, we talked about food last week too, so that always comes into it. And I guess maybe one of the first things we can start with on this is like kind of taking people at their word, okay? And even if you don't know their authority, but especially if you do, you can help them kind of stay in it. So for example, I am sacral authority, so it's really kind of my first response, right? So my first response to something is what I should go with, right? So in the past, before I knew all this, maybe I was around people that would like talk to me about different things or try to influence me or convince me, not in a way that's negative, right? We're trying to help people. But at the end of the day, it's each person's own path, and it's better if we can empower people to be in their true self and kind of respect them at their word rather than trying to push and push and push. Right. So yeah, that's something that we wanted to chat with you guys today about, is just kind of being aware and conscious of where we are conditioning others unintentionally or intentionally, and kind of how to deal with that. So Alex, what has your experience been being a projector? And well, first of all, how does it feel to you when people try to influence you when you've already said no, or you've kind of stated already what you want? How does that feel for you?
Initially, it would have been, or for the majority of my life, it would have felt itchy, or this person's not listening.
Yeah.
Now it's more, I didn't explain myself clearly enough, or the words that came out of my mouth didn't match the force or intention that I was thinking about. So I usually have to reframe it.
Yeah.
Especially just learning communication better and the training I went through to become a coach. You start deciphering all those little mechanisms as you're speaking anyway. So now it's, if someone didn't hear me, it's on me.
Sure.
So I just have to be better at doing that and reframing something, or addressing an initial case they presented and then saying, I know you're thinking this, but what I meant was. So trying to just think about what perspective they were probably coming from. So there's a little empathy involved there, but it's more just overly communicating. And I'm usually concise. And what popped in my brain whenever you were saying what we were going to be doing is, I think it's a massive pressure from society in school, because we're usually taught problem solving and fix it through almost everything.
Yeah.
Most schooling is STEM now, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, which is all left brain predominant, fix-it problem solving, which is just a consciousness issue. So whenever someone is speaking to you, this is especially hard for me since I just love information.
Yeah.
When someone's talking, my brain is thinking, fix it, fix it, fix it. Like, I think I have the solution to your problem. There might not be a problem.
Right.
They're just talking.
Yeah.
So it's trying to quiet that and actually hear what someone else is saying with understanding they may not want you to say anything.
Yeah.
And it's just to be heard, which is probably the most important thing I've learned in communication is you don't need to have an answer for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we could probably do a whole call on that.
It's a lot.
You know, that's a lot about active listening.
Yeah.
And because, like, you can hear something, but, like, are you actually, like, taking it in?
Right.
And yeah, I agree with that. It's hard sometimes because you're like thinking of all these other things while someone's talking.
Or even if you're not looking at their face and you're in your mind, like if my eyes wander and I start, even if I don't say anything, just think about solutions when they're still talking. If the eye contact disappears or if I'm not watching, little twitches in the face, half the communication's lost. So even if you're not actively responding, you're not actually listening possibly, like you said.
Yeah, I think we should do a call on that as well, because the more connected we are, and I've learned this too from like doing live shows, you know, where there's like thousands of people watching, and like, you know, you have to be able to shut that off to be able to like, okay, really tune in so that you're connected and respond like really in your truth and based on like what you heard from the other person. But that brings us to like another point too with authority. There's like a lot of different authorities, of course, and so and what I was trying to say earlier is like how to empower other people based on what they're deciding, right? Like we don't have to push, and even with all the types, you know, it's not about pushing to try to get what you want. And especially me as a generator, I try to flow, and like, you know, where there's resistance, I pay attention to that, you know? So if I'm giving somebody a piece of information or advice and there's resistance, you know, I might not keep going if there's a lot of resistance, and I'm sure that applies for projectors a lot too. But especially like for my own authority, for any generators, and really for most of the types, explaining our reasons for why we say yes or no is an invitation to kind of discuss and maybe be influenced and maybe, you know, kind of get an answer from somebody else. So what I've learned to do is to more say, okay, no, this just isn't correct for me, or this isn't the right fit, or it's not part of my process right now, rather than trying to explain, because a lot of times our authorities, when it comes to saying like yes or no and deciding, right? It's different for like explaining your process or your outer authority or, you know, things like that. But when you're saying yes or no, or like, yeah, I want to accept this invitation, or no, I don't want to, you know, a lot of times it's better to not try to explain, right? Just, hey, it's not part of my process. Thank you. And that's it. And sometimes people will be like, well, why not? And it's like, well, it's not really, it's just like what my body is telling me and what I feel is correct for me.
Right.
And just kind of keep, you know, not going into the story about things. And I learned that pretty early on, when I would like change my mind about something, or, you know, I'm at an expo and I've already set up my table to vend my cacao, and my body's just like, no, like this is not right, you gotta go. And I couldn't explain like why.
Right.
It's just like, I'm not supposed to be here.
Well, no one will accept unless they just accept that. If you say, my body's telling me, people will be like, great.
Yeah.
Right. No one will accept that on face value unless, I think that's still part of it. For me, that's part of the fix-it thing. If you try to uncover and just keep asking why, you're looking for a little thing that you can change. Or I do that at least. Just like, I can influence this part of their decision and change their mind.
Yes.
Which is a little form of manipulation.
Yes.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I have been better at not doing that, but it's also, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So if I dig, and then even just them talking about it, whomever I'm talking about, that might still feel a little manipulative. If they're like, I already made this is kind of like when you break up with someone.
Yeah.
And you type out everything and go, done.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, it doesn't end there. And
Yeah.
there's always reasons and try to change it. It's kind of like that. There's always an influence there.
Yeah, yeah. And even when I deal with couples or I've helped people like break up, and one of my long-term clients coined me the divorce doula. I don't know if I should be proud of that, but I do help people, you know, uncouple consciously, because it's, again, not personal. And again, if we go into the stories, it's just like, just say, hey, this isn't correct. You know, you still love each other, but it's like, if it's not correct, it's not correct.
Right.
But I found, yeah, that like explaining myself sometimes, even when it's coming out, like about why I shouldn't do something or why I don't want to do this, it's like, it's inviting those judgments, those like opinions from others, and it's just really, it doesn't feel like it comes out right. It's like, I don't think they really understood, and it didn't.
It's hard to articulate like the deep emotional processes that we go through when it's something that critical or important or foundational in your life.
Right.
Your words almost will never portray the intense, complex, emotional, psychological process from your entire life up till that point. They're going to get this much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And no one can really ever fully understand. Right. So, yeah, if you're like dealing with somebody, which we always do, you know, we're communicating and they say no or yes or whatever the case is, just allowing other people to be themselves is like a great way to like also learn for yourself, like, okay, this is how I should stand in my authority, and if they don't want to do that, I don't want to push them, even if I really wanted them to do that, or you know, it'll create a lot less resistance down the road too, because maybe that thing is not correct for the person, and then we're taking them out of their authority, we're inviting them, you know, through questions and all of that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, conditioning others is a big thing.
That brings in the concept skin in the game. So if it's not their idea, if it really was put there by you, I mean, you can always plant seeds, but it has to be their complete autonomous decision. If it wasn't generated internally by them, they're not going to have skin in the game of whatever it is you two are trying to do together. And at some point down the road, if anything gets hard or if there's any resistance, there's going to be no real internal motivation on their side, because it might not have been their idea.
Well, yeah, and if they didn't enter it correctly or they didn't listen to their authority, it will eventually fizzle out or you know, just lead to frustration and those type of things. So, yeah, even for manifestors that are designed to initiate and inform and to, like, come out and, you know, I have a lot of manifestors in my life, like my dad, I've got several friends and a lot of people that I know, and it's like, yeah, you're here to inform things, but it's about giving other people choice, right? Like, do they want to jump on the train and help you manifest by either building as a generator for you, or guiding, you know, like a projector would guide the workers, or the reflector, you know, accessing all of the quantum potentials, right? And leading to the surprise and all of that. So, yeah, even with manifestors, it's like, if you inform and initiate and you don't get the support, okay, keep moving forward, right? Don't try to be like, no, come on, guys, we got to do this, you know? So
there's a boundary between your job is done and push.
Right.
And is that difficult to learn, since I've never gone through that process? Is there a lot of gray area there, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what I truly believe, as you get more and more into these sciences and the languages, and you start to understand how the flow of the universe works and how your authority works and everything, it's like, you don't want to influence people to like, it's like, no, if you're getting that message of a no, just like, thank you. That's okay. You know, same for like, if you get clients and then they drop off.
Right.
Thank you. Like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, don't chase things. Even manifestors are not designed to chase. They're designed to initiate. But no one's really designed to like chase after and like push. That's like the controlling mechanism of the Matrix.
Right.
You know?
It kind of feels salesmanly or conning or something like that. It doesn't feel good if someone does that to you. And when if I ever do that, I kind of just get grossed out of my body.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good because it wasn't their autonomous decision.
Right.
Yeah, you put it there or you pulled it out of them, and somewhere down the line it's gonna come back and might not be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that'll be far worse. That's a lot of wasted time.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing, is I never want to waste someone else's time.
Yeah.
Because I hate it when someone does that to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess this was just the other half of the conditioning. So try to practice that, this week, and with your authority and with your strategy. And even if you don't know the other person's authority, that's okay. But if you do know that they're emotional authority and they hesitate when you ask them something, okay, no problem. I'm going to ask you again. Don't answer right now. I'm going to ask you again in 30 minutes or an hour. They're still not sure. No problem. I know Alex is self-projected authority, so I can invite him to talk about his own things, because self-projected projectors, their authority is their self, their G center, and it's about the spontaneous verbal release of the self, and for him to hear himself speak, but bouncing off of my codes, and I'm not here to solve his problem, right? He's not here to solve my problem either. He's a projector. He might be able to see how I can do things efficiently. And if I recognize him in those things, yes, and I will be showing him that, thank you, I appreciate, and, please guide me here or there, right? Like, show me what's going on. But especially, like, with parents, especially we want to influence them, or, trying to get my dad to stop using canola oil, And it's, like, stupid stuff. My dad's a manifestor. I'm a generator. So me approaching him, he's already like, ugh, you can't.
And also his kid.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Yeah. And like manifestors, for anyone, we're not supposed to tell them what to do or ask them questions, right? We're supposed to just say, hey, I heard that coconut oil was better to cook with. Leave it at that.
Leave it.
Okay. Not, oh, canola oil is garbage. Like, this is so terrible.
Okay. Good
But yeah, all the types are different, and just be more in tune with your authority and start to see what happens, because again, no choice, right? So it's like we have the choice of being able to witness our experience either in distortion, in creating resistance, or in truth, right? So whatever's being revealed, what we're interacting with, we want sovereignty. So we have to empower that in others too,
right?
In order to get that back, and we stand in our truth. And when we're being influenced, it's like, thank you, I appreciate it. And just sticking in your authority. Right. Even if the circumstances are like, well, maybe I should do it because everyone wants me to do it. It's like, no, you need to stick with what your truth is, because that's actually what's correct. And you don't know what's going to happen later on down the line.
Right.
So if you do that thing that you're getting a lot of resistance, or you do influence somebody that was in their authority and you bumped him out of it, now there's going to be all these issues that you're going to have to put out fires.
There might be a resentment and bitterness that come back too, and you're
right.
like, I didn't actually want to do this, like months down the line.
Yeah.
But remember that day you talked me, like they'll remember. It will come back at some point if it was pushed.
Yeah.
Because I remember those things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially like even the profile numbers, like I'm a 6'2", so the 6 really responds to people that don't have an agenda, right? That's like the whole like responds best to, right? No agenda. So even for me, like when I feel like there's an agenda or there's like some sort of influence, I immediately kind of shut off.
Interesting.
And I have the gate of influence as one of my codes in my cross, right? I'm the 31.2, which is projecting out that I am here to influence people, which is very interesting when we talk about leadership, but it's in an undefined area. It's in my throat, undefined throat, so I can't initiate it. I have to be elected. I have to be asked for. It's projected. Right, so there's like a lot of lessons that I've even learned about like influencing and how that works. And we can influence people even by our stories, like how we relate to them, like when they're talking. And, there is like a skill in that, but it can be used in a way that like kind of like almost makes the other person feel like totally different,
Right.
And so you have to be in your integrity, especially if you're a coach, especially if you're...
We're taught that, so that if someone's in their story, the temptation is to relate.
Yeah.
As soon as you start relating, it's no longer all about them.
Right.
You just interjected your story into theirs. So there's like a real fine line with making sure they know you appreciate how they were feeling or how difficult that was, and just expressing that and staying out of it.
Yeah.
And not getting intertwined with it. And then basically you're just talking about your story.
Yeah.
You can say, I had that experience as well, just to let them know that you're on the same page.
Yeah, that you can relate to them. Yeah.
Right, and then stop.
Yeah.
And let them continue.
Definitely.
It's real tricky to tiptoe that.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, well, I've noticed that a lot, even with the 31, because the 31 is the gate of influence, right? It's the gate of leadership. It's part of the channel of the alpha, right? Which is about patterns and logic. So that's even where that relating stuff comes in, because it's like the mechanism of that. So my dad has the full channel, so it compromises my single gate, right, of my cross. And so I always had a hard time growing up with like I was saying, the influence. I love my dad. He's great. But it's like, it's just a mechanism. So now when I'm with my dad and I do want to tell him something, I'll say, hey, I'm not trying to influence you.
Right.
I'm not trying to lead. Right? Hey, Dad, you lead. Or sometimes he'll be like, you want to take the lead? And I'm like, wow, how did he got that? But yeah, because it's like through relating to that channel kind of operates, because it's like patterns. Oh, it's like that pattern. It's like this pattern. And it's like, yeah, but it has to be invited. It has to be asked for. It has to be, it's projected, so it has to be recognized as a gift. Otherwise, that's where we get tyranny and, bad leaders and stuff like that. So, yeah, lots of different mechanisms and stuff around influence and conditioning. And so look at your white areas. This is where you're going to receive conditioning. And then also your type, because again, your mind goes the exact opposite of who you are. So, if you're looking at your authority, your emotional authority, you're probably wanting to be spontaneous, which is not correct. Another way around, if you're splenic or sacral, you're probably like, well, I need to feel this out, talk it out, sleep on it, wait to see how I feel. And it's like, no, you need to be in the moment with your authority.
Yeah.
And then just practicing, noticing where maybe you're trying to condition others, or where that's just like coming out of you, and just kind of no agenda. You can give information, especially as projectors. Give information. Projectors are the seers of energy, right? So that's your gift. Like, you can see how energy works, how it would flow, the systems that you need to create.
Dynamics.
Yeah, and like the efficiency of like, oh, if we did this, that would be efficient. But it's like being recognized, and then you can see where everything goes. But if you're on that side boat, right? Because we talk about projectors kind of being on the side boat with the sonar,
all the instruments,
special vision, and everyone else is on the big boat, right? Generators are the workers. The manifestor might be like the captain and telling everyone what's going on and where we're headed. The reflector is really taking in everything, and they're accessing possibilities and things that might go wrong that none of us else can see. But the projector is here to just be on that side boat, look in, see what other people are doing. You can say what you see if you're invited, but if they don't take it, release it. It's not your job to make the energy do, you're not to interfere with it, but you can say, hey guys, if we just lowered the sails here, be a lot better. And then you get success, you bring them success, and you get to fulfill your job of relaying the information that we can't see. Right. But that's where the bitterness comes in.
Oh yeah. Hardcore. That's a hard one
to
get used to. But if you know that, over the last year I've been practicing that, and it's right every time, where I will volunteer information and they will change nothing.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh right, they didn't ask. Okay, stop. Right, because I will be like, well, if you had listened to me in my brain, which is they didn't ask. So don't influence. Again, volunteer if requested, but that happens almost every day.
Yeah.
So I just have to learn to stop.
Yeah.
All the time. And even a facial expression, because people are pretty good at picking up. So if someone says something and I smirk, and then that cascades. Yeah. So it's literally just no communication, if not ask. Obviously, small talk doesn't matter, but something specific. I'm trying not to volunteer opinions, because I will get bitter pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Within a minute.
Right.
Just small ones, and then obviously with people you're in long-term relationships with, or you see every day, and then that compounds over months, and then you just get more bitter. And this is probably most true in relationships.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because that happens anyway, but someone you see every day, you detect patterns immediately. So it's been it's quick to see, because that happens. It's a very quick feedback loop, thankfully. So I've been able to change quickly, but if it took longer to come back, that would be way more difficult to correct.
Yeah, definitely. And like I was saying, a lot of people have projected channels. Like I even have a projected channel, the 2838, the channel of struggle or perseverance. And it's about fighting for a purpose. You know, so it's like a constant mechanism that's always like, but what's the point? What's the point? What are we doing? You know, and it's like, I can't just like give it freely either. You know, I have to wait till that's recognized. Otherwise it turns into a fight.
Yep.
You know, and it turns into a struggle with another person. But yeah, so a lot of us have these projected channels, and even if you don't, even if you're a reflector or any of the other types and anything, it's like we're learning to just kind of release and like let people do what they do and kind of watch what's coming in, what's happening, because we're not here to control or change or influence. It's like you can give information, but if they don't take it, okay.
Right.
You know? And it's hard too, especially if you have someone in the family who has an addiction.
Yeah.
You know, or a child that is severely depressed and they are not doing anything with their life. You know, it's like you as a parent are like, oh, but I really want to do something. You know, I deal with this with clients a lot. And it's like, look, I get that. You just can be yourself. You can learn certain things about their chart that might help them, like, oh, their emotional authority, if they're interested in getting information on that, or, you know, you can tell them it's okay that they have ups and downs, you know, and that nothing's wrong with them. You know, I've had a lot of parents that came to me with their kids and are like, oh my God, thank God.
Right.
The school and I have been trying to figure this out for years, and the child is just, it's normal. You know, have the up and downs and the emotional stuff. So, yeah, just letting everyone have their own path.
That's especially hard with networks. If you're trying to build networks, and there's a lot of dynamics going on. If I have an idea for how something could work more smoothly, but no one
wants to see it.
Asks it, and it's just like, oh, they resist the ability.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with something you're going to be involved in, you have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other people, probably all different types involved, and you just have to go through trial and error like everything else, but that's hard.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point about projectors, because like once you're invited and you're respected and appreciated, you don't have to be asked again.
Right.
You know, so
that was one of my first questions.
Yeah.
I was just like, is it every day?
No. And like the invitation can be revoked and you'll know.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing, is projectors have like a built-in radar. Like, you know, like, okay, they do want my opinion and my advice and what I see. Or no, they're not. You know, wax on, wax off. Right. They're not doing it.
That one is easier to detect, I agree.
Yeah.
There's a clear energetic shift there.
For sure. Yeah, so I mean, I think that pretty much wraps up this call about how we may condition others and how to let others really have their path, and just kind of releasing that feeling that we need to change people and that we have to, like, you know, make them do stuff, or like, you know, we really think this is what's best for them. And so we really got to keep making them try to understand that. Yep. It's like, okay, no, you know, if there's resistance, just kind of letting it go and just watching, you know, watching what's happening. You be yourself, you be in your own authority. Take people at their word.
Yes.
Right? A lot of times we try to interpret what they mean.
Right. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah. But we can ask them, right? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm feeling this. I'm not really sure. So more communication. Yeah. We'll be doing lots of podcasts on communication.
It's every day.
Yeah. I am a huge communicator. You are too, being self-projected.
It changes the amount of time, it changes mistakes, it changes everything. It just makes things work more smoothly if you invest a little more just on getting it right the first time. Yeah. And it just makes everything less wobbly going forward. You don't have to go back and re-clarify, or 2 weeks down the line if you started something with someone, you're like, I thought when we said our next one will probably be on agreements because of this. Yeah. But communication is the foundation of interpersonal interactions. So you have to be good at communication.
Definitely. And even with the Syncretist initiation, this is going to be a big component of the whole program, because that's what all these things are. They're all languages. Right. And then being able to communicate in them, you know, as far as like getting your clarity and how to communicate, you know, effectively in your own voice and, you know, out of conditioning. But you can communicate to conditioning. So even if someone is, you know, you're feeling that influence and that pressure, we can even say, no, thank you. You know, we can address it. We can identify. Because because communication's not just words, you know,
Right.
it's
everything.
all this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really excited to share with you about the program and other things that we have coming up. So
Yeah, one housekeeping note, just in finishing. We decided to make the Syncretist Society, the initiation, open enrollment. So there is no hard deadline. There is an abundance of material. So if you miss the first enrollment deadline, which is coming up in about a week, it'll be open for a while after, just rolling, because the content is ever evolving, and there'll just be an archive of material for you to get caught up, just so you are able to participate in group interactions and things like that. But if it's not the right time for you now, don't feel pressure. It will be open for weeks and probably months going forward.
Yeah.
As it builds.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we're just really excited to be creating this, and it's a long time coming, and you know, it's gonna be really cool. We're gonna talk about all sorts of stuff, you know,
Everything.
sovereignty,
Existence.
plants,
Yeah.
music,
Lots of plants.
all of the things. Maybe some puppies.
I'm sure there'll be puppies in
Yes.
there. Everyone loves puppies.
All right.
All the links will be below, guys. We'll see you next week.
Ciao.